7 Days of Wisdom, episode 23. Happy Siblings Day to everyone out there. I didn't even know it was Siblings Day until I checked out my Facebook and saw the post. So, happy Siblings Day. Sunday, April 10th, 2016, 10:12 p.m. Eastern Daytime. This week, we will be discussing, what will we be discussing? Protecting our energy, being an asset versus being a liability, being busy versus being productive, and then hop into our quote of the week. So we have a lot of comparisons and contrasts this week. So let's get it started. Protecting our energy. Earlier this week, Monday actually, Tuesday actually, April 5th, I put up a post on Facebook saying avoid dream killers, protect our energy, protect your energy, and stay creatively inspired. This post was actually inspired by a lifestyle blogger that I know by the name of Janae Raquel. And she had a podcast, Apartment 10E. She has a podcast, Apartment 10E. So definitely check that out when you get the chance. And she just seemed to be a bit frustrated in regards to living the life and building the life of an entrepreneur and being a full-time blogger, lifestyle blogger, and just dealing with different people, I guess, in regards to our circles, the people we deal with, you know, beliefs, disbeliefs, critiques, perspectives, viewpoints. And I know in regards to, you know, being a dreamer, having a certain vision, and all the dreamers out there, you get to a point sometimes where you have to deal with people who may not see things from your perspective. And they may or may not be dream killers, but they try to speak reality or quote-unquote reality into your life. And sometimes that can be frustrating. So, you know, sometimes you do have dream killers who say, you know, you can't do this, or you shouldn't be doing that, or this is an anomaly, or, you know, don't compare yourself to this person, or not everyone can do this. I've always viewed things as someone has to do it, right? So why shouldn't it be you? If someone has to do it, why can't it be you? So go for it. Dream. Work towards those dreams and goals. Avoid dream killers. Protect your energy. Stay creatively inspired. Protecting our energy is another important thing. You know, our energy field, our frequency, it's easy for that to get drained based on who we hang around, our friends, our family. And energy is real. The exchange, the transfer of energy is real, you know? So it's best that we keep ourselves around people who help to provide us with the energy that we need, as opposed to people who drain the energy that we have. So let's exchange energy. Reciprocity is a huge thing. Transformation is a huge thing. As long as it's not draining. Anything energy draining, you want to get as far away from that as possible. So that's very important. That pretty much covers that aspect of protecting our energy. Asset versus liability. Earlier this week, again, I was just thinking of being an asset in the lives of others versus being a liability in the lives of others. When we're an asset, obviously we're helping people, we're adding value to people's lives, adding value to our life. People want us to be around. You know, we help to make people's lives better after they met us than it was before they met us. I always try to view things from that perspective. All right, have I helped to make this person's life better post meeting me as opposed to before they met me? You know, and I truly believe that the people who meet me, whoever has met me, can say that, hey, I've learned a lot since meeting Aquaus. The time that we've spent together, you know, still has an impact on my life to this day. That's the path that I choose to live, where I can leave an impact on people's lives that stays with them even when I'm no longer there. So I always try to be an asset in the lives of others. In regards to dealing with liabilities, you know, it's usually people who are kind of more dependent on things or other people, and it's not really a valuable exchange of value, you know. And it goes back to protecting your energy. Whenever you're dealing with certain people who may be liabilities, it's like you lose energy. It sucks up your energy because you're devoting more energy in regards to, you know, maintenance than you should be devoting, and you're receiving, you know, less energy or close to no energy at all. So that's a liability. You know, you're losing more. You're losing a lot more than you're gaining, pretty much. And anything in between is maintenance. You know, when it comes to relationships, maintenance doesn't transform lives. So, you know, it's really being an asset to other people that helps to transform lives. And when we look at, let's say, the mentor-mentee relationship, a lot of people might say, oh, you know, you're spending a lot of energy mentoring. What about that relationship? Well, that relationship would be more of an investment. You know, investing in the potential of someone else. So you're really gaining a lot as well. You're giving and you're gaining. So that's very important. You know, if you're going to give, you know, you should gain in a way. Sometimes you give and, you know, there's no gain out of it. But most of the time, giving is gaining, if you really think about it. You may be gaining a sense of joy. You may be gaining a sense of compassion. It may not be a monetary gain, but it's some sort of gain when you give. Sometimes you're just gaining good karma. So, you know, I believe that there is a sense of gain in giving. It's just a matter of how we choose to look at it. So that's very important. Asset versus liability. Always be an asset. Never be a liability. You do not want to be a liability. I know I don't. Busy versus being productive. So when we're busy, we occupy our time. A lot of people say, I'm busy this, I'm busy that. I mean, a lot of times it really may not be that productive, but it's something that occupies our time. When we're productive, we optimize our time, meaning that we're making effective use of our time. We're not just occupying our time, taking up our time, doing stuff, meaningless stuff, but we're actually optimizing our time, doing things effectively that are meaningful and productivity is what helps us to move forward with intention. So productivity is what helps us to move forward towards our goals and visions, as opposed to just being busy, which is just utilizing our time. So that's the difference I see in regards to being busy versus being productive. I always aim to be productive and not just busy. So keep that in mind. When we're busy, we occupy our time. We do not want to really do that. When we're productive, we optimize our time, which means we make effective use of our time, which is always the better thing to do, and that allows us to move forward with intention. So let's be productive, not busy. All right? Always aim to be productive. Lastly, quotes of the week. I just have a few. But before we do that, before we do the quotes of the week, let's hop into a few posts. So I was revisiting a post. Every Kid Needs a Champion. This was a TED Talk by Rita Pearson. Great TED Talk. It's on my website, iloversambition.com. And I was just revisiting a lot of things that were said in that post. Specifically, it addressed the need for students to form empowering, purposeful, and productive relationships, and how paramount that is, and how human emotion transcends cultural barriers. Thus, the value and importance of human connection and relationships being pivotal. So, when we look at it, we live in a socially constructed world. I've said this in the past. And just like it's important for humans to connect and form relationship, it's even more important for students to do the same thing in regards to forming empowering and purposeful, productive relationships with other students, with teachers, with family, with the community, and how, the emotional connection behind that really helps to transcend cultural barriers. So this was all things that were mentioned in the TED Talk with Rita Pearson, and how important it is that every kid does need a champion. It's the connection, that allows students to hold themselves accountable, because when students know that someone's dependent on them, not from the liability perspective, but when students know that someone's looking towards them to achieve something, they want to hold themselves accountable. It's like, oh, this person cares for me. I don't want to let them down. So, in that post, I spoke about where's the love. When we love students and when we care for students, they don't want to let us down. They want to hold themselves accountable. So we have to express our love and our interest in the best interest of our students and of people in general. So when we express that love and care for people, they don't want to let us down. They want to live up to it, and that enables everyone to go for the win. But when people are isolated, when people feel as though no one cares, that's when there are a lot of losses, because there's no accountability, and there's just a lot of gaps. Man. So if we want to close the gap, in order to hold one another accountable, we have to just show that we care for one another. We care for the success of one another. And this eventually helps us to build communities. And when we build that community, no one is left behind. It's like building a team. You know, when you're a part of a team, you're on that team. So you do not want to be the person to disrupt the dynamic of that team. Same thing when it comes to communities, schools, classrooms. You don't want to be that one person to disrupt everything. And usually that one person who disrupts everything is the person who feels that in one way or another they're not accepted, or they're not loved, or they're not part of it the way they would like to be. So, you know, this ties into just all inclusivity. When we're inclusive, we're more likely to succeed as a whole. So let's be inclusive, let's care, let's love, let's incorporate everyone into the big picture. And essentially that was the message that Rita Pearson conveyed in regards to every child needing and deserving a champion, someone to champion them, someone to be by their side and help them to get where they need to get in life. So that was a post way back from going on 3 years ago, May 2013. So check that out on the website. I'll put a source. Of course, we'll have the weekly resources at the bottom, so you can check that out. Lastly, this week we posted an interview with, one of my models of success, one of my personal models of success, Troy Carter, who runs Atom Factory out of LA. He used to manage Lady Gaga. Now he has clients like Meghan Trainor. He's an investor in a lot of companies, Spotify, Uber, Warby Parker. I really admire this guy from Philly, and he was recently interviewed by Chris Denton, who has a podcast entitled Innovation Crush. If you're not familiar with that, definitely check that out as well. The resource for this particular post will be at the bottom of the page also. And in his interview, there were a lot of gems mentioned. Right? So one of the first gems was, well, first of all, there were 5 points he made. The first was using common sense in regards to his business savvy. He never went to business school or anything, but he just asked himself, when it comes to business, he asked himself certain questions, such as, would I buy this? Would I listen to this? Do I understand why people buy this or listen to this? Things like that. So, I mean, this is a guy who has a GED and is super uber successful, pun intended. So I really respect that. Another thing he said is being tough. And he said that our grit is a result of the difficult experiences we deal with in our daily life. So when we deal with difficult experiences and when we build upon those difficult experiences, it's that toughens us up and builds the muscles in our stomach and spirit to help us get through the tough times. So that was something that definitely stuck out with me as well. Just being tough and building that grit, which is one of my favorite words recently. Grit, tenacity, those kind of words. So yeah, let's be tough, let's build grit, get through the tough moments, and build upon our character. Third thing he mentioned is opening doors. And this is very important. He looked up to guys like Russell Simmons, Reginald Lewis, Puff, and these are guys he admired. And now I'm looking at him and looking at the path that he's setting for the next generation of guys such as myself and those to follow. And one of the important things he said is in a meeting he had with an investor, he was told that some investors didn't invest in his fund because they thought that he was only going to focus on minority founders. And he said that this really messed him up, and forced him to ask himself the question and say, who said black guys can't build billion-dollar companies? So when he was told that investors actually pulled out of his fund because they didn't really want him just in focusing on minority investors, that made him really want to focus more on minority investors. And now he feels obligated to open up doors and give minority entrepreneurs a chance. So there are definitely multi-billion-dollar opportunities out there, and he really just emphasized the point at getting it, going out there and get it. So, he definitely wants to open up doors for people who are looking for those opportunities, who are looking to create opportunities as well. Caring about the consumer was another thing he mentioned, saying that any business looking to build around carbonated beverages at this day and age is in trouble, because since the information age, people are more privy to health issues and ingredients, and we're more privy to making healthier, smarter decisions. As we can see, like, everything now is health oriented, organic, non-GMO. People are working out more, looking into alternative options, healthier options, alternative lifestyles, holistic lifestyles. People are meditating more. People are doing yoga. So the health and wellness paradigm shift is happening very quick, very fast, where the cool thing is now the healthy thing, as opposed to the cool thing being the smoking, cool thing being soda drinking. It's no longer cool. The cool thing now is being healthy and fit and, well-rounded human beings. So that was something he mentioned in regards to caring about the consumer and the consumer products coming out, just being more consumer oriented, caring about the consumer. So that's very important. Lastly, judging people by their intent. He said in a conversation with Doug Morris, who, for those of you who don't know, is the CEO at Sony Music, head man in charge. He used to run Universal Music Group. Now he's over at Sony. And who runs Universal now? Lucien Grange runs Universal Music Group. So Doug told Troy Carter, Troy Carter asked Doug Morris how he managed his executive talent. When he was running Universal, he was overseeing L.A. Reid, Jimmy Iovine, who's now over at Apple. And Troy was like, yo, how do you manage this executive talent? And Doug told Troy, hey, I judge people by the intent. Meaning that I judge people by the intention behind the decisions that they make. If they make a mistake, it's the intent of the decision. Now, if the intent was to be beneficial to the company, they learn from that mistake. However, if the intent is malicious, that's where the real judgment comes from. So I feel it's important that whether it's business or personal, as human beings, we do judge. I know we say it's not good to judge, but we do judge. It's a part of the life that we live. We're supposed, in order to move forward from the decisions that we make, we have to judge certain things. We do judge decisions. It's the only way to differentiate between what's good and what's bad, is to judge something. We can't know what's good and what's bad if we don't judge it, right? So judgment is a part of the life that we live. It's just about how we go about doing it. So in all fairness, he was saying that, don't judge the decision, judge the intention behind the decision. So it's a matter of asking the question of, all right, what was the intention behind what was done? Was it done to harm, or was it done to, really get something good out of it, but there was a mistake made somewhere down the line, or miscommunication made somewhere down the line. So essentially, as long as people's intention is not malicious, I feel that we all learn from the mistakes that we make from our decisions. So judge based on intention and make sure the intention is not malicious. And that pretty much wraps things up. So quotes of the week this week: think holistically. It's important that we think holistically. There's something called design thinking that's all based on thinking holistically, with the whole picture in mind, the end user in mind. So when we make decisions, let's think holistically. Not only about ourselves, but the people involved in the decision, how that decision may have a bigger impact on our team, our company, the world at large. It's very important to think holistically. Avoid dream killers, protect our energy, stay creatively inspired. We spoke about that earlier on. Judge people by their intent. Doug Morris, CEO of Sony Music. And then lastly, our grit is the result of the difficult experiences we deal with in our daily lives. Troy Carter. So that wraps it up. 7 Days of Wisdom, episode 23. We're approaching 27 minutes in. Hope you learned a few things this week. We will be back next week. Have an impactful week. And leave comments, suggestions at the bottom. Any questions, anything you would like for me to discuss next week, definitely feel free to let me know. Until then, we are out. Aquaus Kelley, A Lover's Ambition Lifestyle Group. Peace.